Hey, this is Reed's Reviews. Today let's look at this RC-10R, specifically how we can use an external foot switch to make it easier to use, kind of tame it a little bit. I have another video where I go over the basics of this pedal. I also mention a couple of things that might be a little bit annoying or a little bit hard to do. And when you have an external foot switch, it makes this a lot better. For use, in my opinion, it makes the pedal a lot better. So let me show you how to get going here. Basically, you need the foot switch. You hook it up with a 1/4-inch cable into the back here, and you're ready to go. You go into the menu, and it's in the control section. And to set this up, you'll go specifically into Control 1 function. It's because I only have one switch. If I had the FS6, which is 2 switches, I could also... if you look, there's a Control 2 function. It could also set what the other switch would do. But let's just work on this. So it's currently set to off. The first thing I can set this to do is memory down. And the memory down is specifically this here, the phrase number, whether I want to, where I could real time move between like 1 and 2. And you'll note that this is actually cycling through from 1 to 3. There's another setting that allows you to kind of keep the grouping of these phrases within a certain range, and that again might help when you're doing this live, so that you don't have to cycle through a whole bunch of phrases that have nothing in them. And you do that, let me show you that real quick. You do that by going to the system, and it's right there, memory extent, and it says 1 to 3. This can go from 1 to 99, but for the purposes of moving memory up and down or switching between these phrases and songs, I only want this to rotate or to cycle through 1 through 3. So that's what that is. If I go back here, the memory, okay, there was memory, okay, I need to go there. If I go back here, you've got the memory up, and I'll demo this in a second, but at first let's put something down on the pedal so that you'll actually see how it works. But let me move on. Tap tempo, it's a common feature in a lot of different loopers. Lets you set the tempo just by tapping in real time, so it will change it. Rhythm Control 1 sets this pedal to emulate this particular foot switch. Specifically, this foot switch, when it's set to its Control 1 pattern. Not to get confusing, but if I go back to the beginning here, you remember there's this rhythm function. I can set this to 3 different patterns. And basically, they all have just a little bit different setting on how it behaves when you single press, double press, long press. And this can be set to emulate any one of those. So let me go back to Control 1. You can see it can rotate through any one of those, and it's basically going to emulate this switch. Rhythm stop. This can be handy sometimes because the double tap maybe is a little awkward when you're trying to stop something. And so if you set this pedal to it, it will immediately stop it rather than having to double tap. So that makes it nice and convenient. Rhythm fill. If you remember, when you push play here, and then you push it again while the drums are playing, it does a little fill pattern. Right there, you heard it. This will just do the same thing. Okay, double tap. Okay. Rhythm break. This will stop the rhythm till the next measure, and then basically the rhythm will start up again. Okay, so that's that feature. Rhythm part 1 and part 2. It lets you switch between the rhythm 1 and 2 parts, but I've noticed that it doesn't let you do it while it's not playing. So you've got to hit play, and then it will let you go between the 2 rhythm parts. looper control. Okay, now instead of the rhythm side, I can set this to various functions that will emulate the looper side. And that's essentially what this setting is. For example, if I push once, it will start recording. Push again, it will play. Push again, it will overdub. All right, you get the point. So instead of performing all the functions or emulating all the functions that this switch does, I can have it set just to the stop. So similar to with rhythm, if I don't want to do the double tap here, I can set it to where this will be a single tap to stop it, which is, again, kind of a nice feature. The looper undo redo, that's when we get into here and we do a overdub, which you can hear I did at the very end with just a single note. That will remove that overdub. You can hear it's gone. If I want it back, I'll just click there again. All right. Track 1 control is kind of interesting because basically what it's doing is it's saying, hey, instead of emulating this entire this switch, regardless of whether I'm on track 1 or track 2, this is basically making this pedal only effective to emulate this when I am on track 1. So if I do something with it now, it's just going to emulate what this switch would do. So if I push once, it will play. You know, if I press it again, it will do the overdub. So you get the point there. But it will only do it when I'm on track 1. So let's say I want to get to track 2. And one way to do that is to sync both of these sides. You'll note this is flashing green there, and I'm going to actually hold it down. It will flash it's now kind of bluish color. If I start the rhythm and then I hold this down, since part 1 is tied to track 1, and when I move it, it will go into part 2, it will change this to track 2. And when I'm in there, if I push down on this, it's not going to affect anything because this pedal is set to only emulate the looper switch when I'm on track 1. Okay, now we're going to get into track 2. Since I'm in track 2, this isn't going to do anything because it's emulating the loop switch when I would be in track 1. So in effect, this basically disables the external foot switch when you're not on track 1. Now, you can break up the looper control feature. So instead of doing all of them with this pedal, which would be the double press, single press, long hold, you can have it just behave as the stop, which is kind of nice because instead of doing the double tap, which can be a little awkward sometimes, you can just do a single tap there and it will stop it, which is nice. Similarly, the long hold, which is basically peeling off an overdub. I haven't really recorded anything. I think it's just blank, but let's just do an overdub on top of that. Okay, so I stopped that. Now, if I want to do an undo or a redo, I can do that. Basically, it's going to be blank because it was a blank track. But if I push it again, it will bring back my overdub that I had there. All right. These ones that say track 2 control are the same as what I explained for the track 1 control. Essentially, it will make this pedal only work when I'm on track 2. So it will basically be disabled when I'm on track 1. And it has the same options. Now, track 1 and track 2 stop is basically saying, hey, this will function as a stop for either one. So it'll work no matter which track you're in. All break. So all break is allowing me to stop both the rhythm and the loop until the next measure. So if I push this, it will stop everything until the next measure. Yeah. This is one of the most useful, in my opinion, features of having, or reasons for having, an external foot switch. One of the things that's very obnoxious about this pedal is that it cannot switch it to start in track 2 by using the foot switches down here. You have to do it through this setting here, or basically, and it would have to be, the rhythm would have to be synced between the two so that part 2 would be synced with track 2. And what you'd have to do is make part 2 at the beginning. So part 1 is the way that it's typically set up, but if I set it there, you'll note this changes to track 2. This is part 2, and that will allow me to start the pedal on track 2. But again, these two have to be synced in order for them to do that. And let me show you what I mean by that. I just unsynced these two sides. Notice how this doesn't change when I set this to part 1, because these two sides aren't set. So if I don't have these synced, I really can't set this to be on track 2 anyway. And the only way to do that is by having an external foot switch. Let me show you that real quick. Let's get this back to where it was. Turn this on to sync. We're in the control. Okay, target track function. Again, this to me is a lifesaver for this pedal. So boom, you can see I can have it move to track 2 just with this pedal. I don't have to be synced with this. So if I take this off sync, now these are acting as two independent pedals. So nice, so nice. Makes a huge difference. If it was just one thing that this pedal could do, and it was that would be worth it, in my opinion. All right, and that's the last setting here. I was going to show you or demo the memory up and down, or at least memory, one of them, because I only have one switch here. So let's move this to memory up. So now this will do memory up. We'll exit. We're on 3. One thing that's super important, and it's with many of Boss's products, not just this, and other loopers as well, is that you have to hit right or you lose what you'd recorded. So any of the overdubs that I had done are lost because I never hit right. And you'll note that everything's blank. So let's just put something down quickly. So I don't have these synced. So let's go ahead and stop. I want these synced, so I want to record with the looper. There we go. I want to record with the looper while the rhythm is playing. Now, if I move to track 2, it will erase it. If I go back to 1, I can't get it back. So just keep that in mind. It's a little maddening, but again, it's not just this product that I've seen that with. It's others. Let's get it to sync. All right, I'm going to remember to write. Oops. Oh, sorry. It's both at the same time. And then you push here. Okay. And then it tells you, hey, where do you want to write it to? Track 1. That's kind of nice because it allows you, if I wanted to, I could have set it to track 2. In fact, let's do that now. Instead of me having to, this is kind of like copying a track from one to another. So instead of me having to redo or to do another, I lay down another track in one of these other slots. I'll just copy it like that. So now I've copied 1 into track 2. It's the same thing, so you won't hear a difference when I move between the two, but so this is now it hits to the next. It's the same thing that I've recorded, but you'll notice that this blinks until the loop is done, and then it plays the other one. So I don't have anything in 3, so it's just going to be blank. If I go back to 1, it's kind of nice. So you can do this live. All right, so there's a couple other things I need to tell you about. One is it's probably worth your while to upgrade the firmware on this, because I noticed from their site they've had a few different releases that have fixed a couple bugs, and I think there might have been one with the memory up and down. But anyway, just make sure you have the most recent firmware on it, and that will give you the most up-to-date software. The other thing is that there's also a MIDI feature which allows you to assign functions to a MIDI pedal, similar to what we did here, but you could have, multiple MIDI switches, and each one of those could be assigned to a different function. I'm only showing you what the external Footswitch would do, and I'm not going over the MIDI with this review. So hopefully it was helpful. And again, I think the two things that are the most helpful are switching this to target track, which allows you to switch between track 1 and track 2, and also using this to move between memory slots while you're playing, so that you can actually transition without having to touch the pedal. Well, hey, thanks for watching. If you're into effects and you love guitars, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm constantly reviewing old and newer pedals, and when I do, you'll be the first to know. Bye.